That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to HighEdWeb Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
HighEdWeb Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. We're back live at HighEdWeb. I'm sitting down with Andy Shearouse, the Edge Center Assistant Director at Augustana College. Andy, this is not your first HighEdWeb rodeo, and I know you've already gone to a couple sessions this morning, so tell me what has stuck out to you.
Yeah, I've gotten to go to a couple. The one that really has stood out was I went to Elena Wines, who had the really enviable first slot in the morning session, and she was talking about strategic planning, and it was pretty interesting because we use a little bit different strategic planning model on our campus with what we teach to our students. So it's cool to see kind of a completely different look at it and a different model, different framework for doing it. So always interesting to kind of see what's out there and see what I can adopt and start pulling into what we do.
Is this a contender for your golden nugget?
I think so, yeah. Of course, there's another, 8 sessions to go or something like that, but it's definitely up there.
We are recording this pretty early in the HighEdWeb conference. And actually, so Andy's here to talk about the idea of intrapreneurship. And so let's just start with defining what that is and what intrapreneurship means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So intrapreneurship is kind of an interesting twist. I work in the Ed Center at Augustana, which is our entrepreneurship center. And so we're teaching students the ideas of, what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And we do it through some sneaky learning and having them run businesses and things where they don't always realize that they're learning entrepreneurship, but they're learning those tools. But intrapreneurship is kind of an interesting twist to me because it takes that idea of entrepreneurship, that whole idea of, how I go out and generate new ideas, how I channel that creativity, and turns it inward to focus inside of your organization. So inside of your institution, inside of your business, inside of your university, really how you can kind of drive change from inside, right? So you can be that person that's there at 8:30 to 5, head down at a desk every day. You take your lunch break, you get in the car, you drive home. You're basically doing what your boss is telling you, right? Or what campus leadership is telling you. Or you can be the person that's kind of stirring things up a little bit, right? And being the change agent and see ways that, hey, we can make this campus better. We can make this university better. We can make this business better. And here's what we can do to do that.
Higher ed is ripe for disruption, and I often believe that the best ideas come from the people who are closest to the work. And so this idea of the change from within is really resonating with me. I'm sure you've got some examples of this, right? Let's crystallize what this could really be like for a school.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of examples that I like to look at. And one of them is, we've talked a lot about the mental health crisis with Gen Z, right? And that there are students with a higher rate of needing support when they hit campus. And that there were colleges out there that were the first to actually read that research and recognize it and say, hey, we recognize it. We see you. We know that you need this support as you're coming in. So we're going to beef up our on-campus counseling services. We're going to go out and contract with counseling services outside the college. Whatever it is, where they saw that problem coming and they were nimble and they saw that and said, hey, this is happening. Either we're going to stay here and the bus is going to run over us, or we're going to get out in front of this and find a way to kind of get ahead of this and be that college that is already there supporting the students and giving them what they want or what they need. The other example is an interesting one from my college, where we used to have, when students wanted to add or drop a course, a really long, really tedious paper process. So students would have to go pick up a add or drop slip from somewhere. Sometimes that was the academic department that was teaching the class they were adding or dropping, but half the departments on campus didn't actually have those in their office. So you would have to go to the student would have to go walk over to the registrar's office across campus, get the slip, come back, get it signed by the faculty member teaching the course. Then they would have to go walk over to their advisor's office. Their advisor would have to review whether or not the student actually had the prerequisites and everything, or whether the faculty member was willing to waive prerequisites, figure out all of that logic, then sign it, then give it to the student, who had to go back to the registrar's office to drop off the completed slip now. And where it gets really fun is all of this was done on paper. So if you're a student and you're trying to add a class that only has 2 seats open, you're literally racing across campus, zigzagging across all of these different offices. You get to the registrar's office. They have a whole stack of these piled up because, again, all of this is on paper. And so they have this stack of slips that they have to go through. So you as a student wouldn't even know if you got one of those last 2 seats until a day or two later, once they'd have the chance to actually go through it. Well, I hate to say this, but you didn't change that to an online system until 2018. It was actually driven by folks from our career development office who had to deal with internship registrations and go through this process over and over again. Every time a student wanted to add a registration or add an internship registration, they had to do this zigzag all across campus to get their paperwork done. And our career development folks recognized, hey, this is not great. This is not efficient. And they led the charge. They identified that problem on campus and led the charge to say, we have this really inefficient system. It's not great for the students. Honestly, it wasn't great for the advisors either, or for the registrar's office that had to deal with all of these paper slips. So they recognized that problem and said, okay, we have this problem. How do we fix it? And started looking at tools, online tools, working with vendors, and figured out a solution to take all of that and make it happen online. So that process that used to take multiple days can now be done in a half hour, maybe.
I was counting the number of steps on my fingers while you were sharing this example. I ran out of fingers. So, I mean, perfect example, right? And I love that a totally different unit on campus was able to create this change that now is so meaningful for the students and I'm sure saving other staff members tons of time, right? So I look at that career office and I'm like, okay, they're difference makers. So what does it take, in your opinion, to be a difference maker on a campus? Do you have to be an intrapreneur? Can you be an entrepreneur? Can you be both?
Yeah, so entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship, either way, it takes adopting what's referred to as the entrepreneurial mindset. And there's some really interesting research that was done. So back in the 1970s, 1980s, when entrepreneurship was really first becoming a field of study, of course, it was taught by academics. And what do academics do? We research things. And the research that kept coming back and showing people were trying to understand what makes an entrepreneur different, what makes someone who goes out and starts their own venture, or those people, those creative people, right, within your organization, those intrapreneurs that are driving change from within, what makes them different? And the research kept coming back and saying they're exactly the same. The way they think, the way they approach life is exactly the same as your average everyday human. And there's a fellow at the London School of Business named John Mullins who saw all this research coming out, and it never sat right with him. And just about 5 or 10 years ago, he came out with his own research study, because all of this time, ever since all of that research, it just never felt right. And he recognized this. It doesn't feel like these people are approaching everything exactly the same as everybody else. Again, it's back to that. Are you the 8:30 to 5 person, or are you the change maker? And there are people who fit in both of those camps, and they just approach things differently. And his research uncovered 6 different areas that he showed entrepreneurs share that make up what we call the entrepreneurial mindset. And each of those are pretty straightforward. So the first 2 that I talk about are really kind of in my view, the big ones. These are the big things that set people apart. And the first one is that these are folks who say, yes, I can, instead of no, I can't. Now, they do it selectively, right? So you're not going to say, yes, I can to every single opportunity out there. But if someone approaches you with something where you don't have the expertise, you don't have the knowledge to do it, a lot of folks look at that and say, I can't do that, right? That's outside of my bailiwick. I do not know how to do this. I don't know, what the first step would be. So no, I'm going to have to pass this up. You can take this to a different office on campus and see if they can take the ball and run with it. Where people with the entrepreneurial mindset look at it and selectively, like I say, if it's something that they think that they have the skills and knowledge to understand, they will dive into it and say, you know what, I don't have the knowledge to do this right now. I can develop it. So I will take this opportunity. I will chase this idea and see if we can make it work. The second one is another really, really big one, and that is being problem first instead of product first. And the way I explain it is that a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses are really set this way. They think about their product, and we're guilty of this in higher ed as well, right? We talk so much about, here's the departments that we have on our campus. When we're talking about to our students, here's what we have that's established. We really sell that idea, and big business is the same way, right? Coca-Cola, one of the most successful companies in the world, but they really haven't innovated new products in a long time, right? But they really focus on, here's what we have, and they're not going out to tackle new things. Where entrepreneurs take that mindset of, I'm going to look for a problem. I like to say they're trying to be the ibuprofen to somebody's headache, right? They're looking for those problems that are out there that are actual, real problems for people. Because if you can identify a problem that that is a headache for somebody, an entrepreneur recognizes that and says, that's something that if I can build a solution for it, people will pay me money, right? We will pay money to get Advil to get rid of our headache. And it's the same idea. They're looking for those things where people will give them money and say, you have a solution to this problem. I need this problem to go away. Here, make it happen. And so that can look like, on a university, that can look more like looking at what student needs are, right? Or what faculty needs are, what staff needs are, and trying to identify those gaps where there's something out there. Going back to the career development office, right? They identified that this is a problem, that we're sending students all the way around campus. We're making advisors have to deal with this problem or deal with deciding whether students are eligible to add or drop this class by handing them a paper slip and saying, here, figure it out. And we're making problems for the registrar's office that has to handle these piles of slips every year. So they recognize that this is a problem on campus. It's impacting a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And this is a big enough headache that if we can figure out a solution, it'll get adopted.
Andy, this is clearly a conference presentation in the making. Like, there are so many great nuggets here. I feel as though there is a lot to learn, no matter what role you are at on a campus. Everybody can be this difference maker. Everybody can be an intrapreneur. Everyone can find those innovative solutions within maybe even those mundane tasks that they do every single day. And it feels to me like, with your examples, that's actually where some of the power in this comes from, because you have the opportunity to kind of like revolutionize what that day-to-day looks like. Any parting thoughts as we wrap up this really awesome interview?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few things that all tie back to when you're trying to become that change maker, right? It's adopting a mindset. It's adopting a way of looking at things that really anybody can adopt. It's a shift of focus, right? So it's thinking about, where are those problems on campus? Thinking narrowly about them, which is kind of counter to what we talk about with entrepreneurship, right? We always talk about people like Elon Musk or Sam Altman, these people with these big, huge enterprises. But most entrepreneurs actually start small, and they recognize the snowball effect, where they can, if they start by a narrow focus and say, I'm going to take this problem, I'm going to find a group of people that it affects, and I'm going to focus on that group of people. And then they get through that. They pick the next group. They pick the next group. They find the next small problem, where they are building that snowball effect, where a snowball starts out small and just keeps rolling down the hill. It's picking up more snow, more snow, more snow. Entrepreneurs recognize that and say, hey, I don't need to change the entire world right now. I don't need to go build a rocket ship and strap myself to it and take off and become a billionaire. That's less than a fraction of a percent of all entrepreneurs that are gunning for that. Where most people are really trying to make those incremental changes, recognizing those quick wins. And that's where I think this is something that can get adopted by anyone, because it's really about harnessing your creativity. Everyone is born with creativity. We as kids, we are forced to learn to color inside of the lines, because as kids, we color whatever we want to color, wherever we want to color. And we teach them to harness that, right? And tamp it down. But that's in there in everybody. And so a lot of what comes from that entrepreneurial mindset is opening up that creativity to look at problems and come up with ideas for solutions. And also having that confidence in yourself, that the saying, yes, I can, is all about having self-confidence and being able to put yourself in that position to say, you know what? I can do this. I can build these skills. I can adopt this mindset. I can approach this differently and make change. And again, accept that you're not going to make a huge change right away. But if you can start seeing those small, incremental, quick wins, easy wins, they start to build up and really start to build into something.
That's amazing. Andy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy HighEdWeb schedule. I know you've got a lot of responsibilities here, and I so appreciate you sitting down and helping our listeners maybe spark their interest in becoming an entrepreneur at their institution. I think we're going to have to book you on another podcast to really dig deep into this, because I don't think 12, 15 minutes was enough to even start to uncover the layers. But thank you so much. Where can people find you online if they are looking to connect with you?
Probably the easiest is LinkedIn. There are not very many people who have the name Andy Shearouse. So if you do a search on LinkedIn, you are almost guaranteed to find me.
Perfect. All right, listeners, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The HighEdWeb Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.